Well, good morning. I'm here with Brian Geary, candidate for the USD 233 School District 6th position. On behalf of the Olathe Chamber, Brian, thank you so much for joining me today and your willingness to participate in this candidate interview. We appreciate your service to the Olathe community. So, Brian, let's get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you are seeking this office again?
Yes, thank you again for having it. Thank you for what you do to help with awareness of candidates on these types of elections. Again, my name is Brian Geary. I currently serve on the Olathe School Board, so I am running for re-election. I just finished my first term, 4-year term here in Olathe, and currently the vice president of the board. I have a wife here in Olathe that we've lived here for 22 years. And we have a daughter who graduated from Olathe Northwest in 2020, who's currently attending college, and then a son who's currently a junior at Olathe Northwest. I work as my day job, if you will, at the Bank of Blue Valley in Olathe. I'm in the commercial lending area, senior vice president there. And I've been involved in various community activities in Olathe, served on the Olathe Chamber Board of Directors for many years. Have served over 10 years on the Olathe Public School Foundation Board. I was their board president from in 2014, 2015, helped with the 2040 project in Olathe and planning, and just have really tried to get involved in my community. And being involved in these different organizations that do great work for our community helped me to kind of see the importance of having a good school district. And so I think that's probably the main reason I'm running again, is I just know the importance of it. Part of it also is we spent the last 18 months or so, which will be the equivalent of almost my last 2 years in office, dealing with COVID and a pandemic, and really having to not put a lot of things on the back burner, but focus had to shift. And that's part of being on a board. And I think we have a lot to do yet. And so I really want to continue to see many of those things through and be able to help this school district continue to thrive in ways that our community expects.
That's great. Why don't you tell me your top 3 policy issues that you would want to address?
Well, I think from a policy perspective, there's a lot of things that we can be adjusting. I think certainly the ways that we get our teachers in the classroom and continue to grow that. I do have a concern about the number of teachers that continues to decline nationally. And of course, it affects us here directly. A lot of the people wanting to be teachers is going down. And so we're going to have to continue. We're not seeing a decline in students. So we're going to obviously need to continue to find ways to make it not easier to get into the classroom, but perhaps find ways that the certification process and how we utilize that is important. I think it's going to be really important to continue to related to school funding and the formulas that are currently in place. And some of those things are going to need to be adjusted. I think based upon coming out of a pandemic, there's a lot of things that schools are going to need to focus on, not just in Olathe, but throughout the state of Kansas. So I think understanding some of the school funding formula and being able to adjust those to meet the needs of the Kansas schools and our diversity within the state is going to be important. And lastly, I think it's about the students, quite frankly, and how we're assessing them and how we're able to make sure that we are able to see just exactly how they, maybe how far of a gap there is in some kids who, depending on how much they were affected by our pandemic. And, I hate to continue to rely on that. That's an important piece, and we're going to have to figure that out. So I think there's going to need to be possibly some policy adjustments related to a timing of students being in the classroom and things like that. So I would say those are some of the, higher level things that we need to be focused on, maybe more at a state level.
Well, great. Well, let's talk about the big topic always, and that's K through 12 funding. The court has ruled that the current formula is adequate, but they've retained jurisdiction. What are your thoughts on the current formula, and any additional funding that you think might need to be added?
Well, and I kind of touched on this a little bit before, but it is important that I do think that there are some really strides that have been made towards this, and I think it's uh, adequate's a big word. I think it is adequate right now, but like I said before, I think we're going to need to be able to make some adjustments based upon a lot of the things that used to be the norm coming out of the pandemic. I would say things related to our special ed requirements, some of the requirements related to how schools are uh, are paid for different things that they're now having to do as a result of it becomes the new norm. And so I think there's going to need to be some adjustments. I do think it's adequate now. Kansas is such a difficult state to call adequate because we have such a diverse. I mean, we have Western Kansas where things are very different than here in Johnson County, and I mean that's nothing new. But I think we need to continue to look at that and find ways to make sure that everybody's represented in how things are funded at each district. So yet to be determined, I think, on how that looks. But I think we're going to need to make some adjustments as a result of some of the new norms coming out of the pandemic.
Let's talk a little bit about employers and their cooperation with Kansas schools. We know that the unemployment rates are low again, and that we have lots of openings for jobs. How do you see the school district's partnership or role in helping business community meet their future workforce needs based on work-based learning, partnerships, training, other career exploration opportunities?
Mm-hmm. No, I think this has been a good topic lately. Olathe School District has had the 21st Century Academies in place for quite a long time and continue to update those based upon the conversations that we have with employers in our area. We've had great partnerships with companies like Garmin, for instance, in some of the areas that they help. They help partner with us on both space, location, and also just we help with providing the students, if you will, and hoping that they end up learning and acquiring a trade, if you will, or those types of things. I think it's been great the way that we have our business advisors within each academy that we're required to have those meetings. We have great community partners that are engaged in those meetings and providing us as both the teachers and the board with these are the things that are important for our students coming out in these different areas. So we're able to add different, I would call it within each academy has different parts and focuses. And so they help us keep our students relevant, if you will. I think another part that's really important within our employers is our market value assets that we want each kid to leave our schools with. And that might be a certification, that could be an internship that they've had while they're in high school. It could be a CNA. I mean, whatever it might be. I think continuing to know what certifications, what knowledge is important in each industry is going to leave our students that much further ahead of other places. And employers, especially in the Olathe community, have been great about wanting to partner with us with the largest school district in the Kansas City area. And they know that we've got a lot of great kids coming out with amazing skill sets. And whether that be a certification or college credit, whatever that might be, we're relying on our employers to tell us, hey, this is what we need. I will add that, recently Randy Watson, the commissioner of the Kansas Department of Education, was in Olathe, and one of the things he mentioned, and one of their focuses is on not only academics, which is obviously very important, but those other skills that students, when they send out surveys to employers, it's those other things that they're focused on. I mean, they know if someone has a 3.5, that's great, or a 3.0 or whatever, but can they talk? Can they communicate with people? Are they gritty? I mean, all those words that we're starting to use, are they able to bounce back when someone says no to them? those types of things. We've got to continue to focus on those. And our employers have been a great partner in answering those surveys and what kinds of personality traits they're looking for in their employers, not just the academic side. So long answer to probably that question, but there's a lot that goes into it. We have great partners here.
And the district has been great partners with the business community. So thank you. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about COVID-19. What do you think the takeaways are for the district that will go forward and impact decisions that need to be made by the board?
And that's a great question, and one that will continue to develop. I would have liked to thought we were past a lot of this as we came into this school year, but we're not, and we have to continue to focus on how we get our kids ready for their future, and that's our role. I think probably the few things we've learned, communication is such a big key, and that's not just to our parents and our students and our staff, but also to our community and how we're going to move forward. And it's not necessarily the information that we're sharing, but it's the regularity in which we are. People know that for instance, a Tuesday morning, they're going to get a message from Dr. Yeager that gives them a little bit of an update about things. Great. They can go to their email or their source of information every Tuesday and find that. Or if it's coming from a board president or their building principal or whatever that is, I think communication has been such a big piece of this that we're going to have to carry forward, and being able to hit all the different channels of importance. And also we found that there's so much false information that can be spread on social media. I think we knew that already, but people take what they read on their social media account that they follow for real. And that's not always the case. So we need to stay ahead of that game and make sure that we're rolling with that. So I think communication is a huge piece that has come out that we're going to need to continue to go with, work with. I think also coming out of the COVID-19 piece is really understanding the gap that exists in where our students are at and how we assess that. We've always looked at assessment is always a challenge, like, the A, B, C, D grading is really kind of talked about a lot now, whether we continue that or how do we know that students understand the information and are ready. And now we've got an extra step in there where some kids learned online just fine and some learned nothing. I mean, some, but when they all learned a little bit differently, as opposed to being in the classroom and the teacher being able to assess where they were person to person. And some teachers did that better than others. So I think assessment is going to be a big piece in how we move forward of where our students are at and getting them where they need to be to come out as ready for their future as they can.
Okay, Brian, last question. What most distinguishes you from your candidate or opponent in this race?
Well, I think a few things from my standpoint. I mentioned my involvement in the Olathe community. I've been able to develop a lot of relationships with the business community here through like I said, my chamber work and my work here at the bank, but also in the foundation. I see where a lot of our reliance is on things that the school district doesn't provide, but where we need help from the community. So the ability to reach out and do those types of things, I'm aware of where those are at. I've been through a pandemic at a school board level, which I wouldn't wish upon anybody, quite frankly, but leadership is so important and that we can continue to do our job. And I feel like the last year and a half has given me that strength as a person and as a leader to be able to help manage a process in a time that's really never been seen before. And so I think that's a big piece of where I can stand out. I've seen why we did that, but also the first 2 years of why we were doing things and how we created our strategic plan that we're going to continue to move forward with. And when we get past COVID and masking and all that, I still have that skill set behind me that I think will stand out and be able to carry on and have our students and staff ready to go. Just as they always are. They're just resilient, and I think those are the things that will help me in the long run. Is that's just understanding where we are as a community, what we need, and how we get there through the connections that have been made. So.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for participating in this interview today. On behalf of the Olathe Chamber, I wish you best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you. And I appreciate, again, you guys' time in helping create this resource for people to have for their election time. Just get out and vote, right?
Right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.